Adorama TV presents How They Do That, where we explore the world of professional photographers and share their techniques with you. Here's your host, Mark Wallace.
Hey everybody, welcome to this week's episode of How They Do That. This week we have an amazing photographer. His name is Seshu. He is a documentary wedding photographer serving multicultural, ethnic, and interfaith clients. His name is Seshu again. Seshu, thank you very much for joining us today.
Well, it's great to be here with you, Mark.
Awesome. Well, I actually got to hang out with Seshu last year in New York, and he's an awesome guy. Well, first of all, Seshu, tell us a little bit about what it means to be a photographer who is serving multicultural, ethnic, and interfaith clients. What does that mean?
Well, I think it's fairly clear, from the description of the word multicultural. There are two different cultures. Couples are either, from India or from Bangladesh, or they're from the U.S. but marrying somebody who is Indian. Either way, it's couples who are clearly from two different cultures, and it makes for a very colorful event.
Yeah, and we've been looking at your wedding photography here in the studio. I just love some of this stuff. Specifically, you have some images that stand out to me. Things like some shoes with a bunch of extension cords, or the henna on some of the bride's hands, or one of the shots that I really, really love are a bunch of notes that are hung on the wall. So tell us about those small details that you shoot. Why do you shoot those?
Well, I think when it comes down to it, a bride and a groom want to remember their wedding images, like a guest would have experienced it, and these kinds of things have meaning to them. The lists that brides make, ahead of time, or the shoes, for instance, has a story behind it where it's the groom's shoes, and typically in a North Indian wedding, the groom's shoes are quote-unquote stolen and held for ransom by the bride's side, and when the groom's about to leave, he's asked to pay that ransom. And it's a little bit of a game, but I just felt that kind of an interesting mix of these rather industrial wires next to the groom's shoes, which are left unattended, and I was like, wow, why would they do that? And I just found the colors and the composition just so arresting that I felt I had to take a picture, And the same goes for the other detail shots. I mean, I think details sort of tie images together rather nicely for a client, for a couple looking at wanting to create an album for themselves, for instance.
I totally agree. In fact, a lot of times when we talk to clients after they see their wedding photos, this is probably true of you, they see things that they never saw at their wedding because of that, and I think you've captured those details perfectly. So let me ask you about something else. You have such a well-defined style of photography. How do you approach a wedding? Can you describe, from the very first time you meet your clients all the way through the wedding and the post-production, sort of what is your workflow and how do you do that storytelling?
Well, when it comes to the approach, my background is in photojournalism. I wanted to be a newspaper and a magazine photographer. I mean, I had dreams of working for National Geographic, of course, like all other photographers, right? But when it comes down to a couple's day, even that day could be described rather beautifully in a story format. And when I approach my clients and I tell them, this is what my background is, and this is how I'm going to photograph your wedding, they're mostly very open to it, because these are very very busy people, and the event is very very hectic for them, and probably very stressful as well at some point. And the last thing they want is somebody directing them throughout the day, and that's just my clients. I mean, it's not like all couples are like that. Some couples don't mind being photographed and posed throughout the day, but the couples who I attract as my clients, they want me to just sort of be an observer and a documentarian and photograph the event as it's happening. I mean, there's more power to that, and the moments are real, and they feel like they are reliving the day because of the images being so honest.
Absolutely, and it's terrific stuff. Well, Seshu, maybe you can help me out with something. We get buckets and buckets of email from photographers asking specifically how to light weddings, how to shoot in churches, how to shoot in reception halls that are very dark, and how to shoot groups. Now, I'm not a wedding photographer. You're a very exceptional wedding photographer. Can you walk through how you light scenarios like that?
Well, I think it really depends on the venue itself. I mean, the first thing I look for is, of course, a white ceiling. And if there's a white ceiling, I'm golden. But if in the event there isn't one, and I shot a wedding recently in a chapel where the ceiling was all dark wood. What are you going to do about that? Well, you could post a couple of light stands and strobe it with your pocket wizards, which I love, and that's one way to go about it. The other way, of course, is to boost your ISO and just sort of go all natural. There really depends on the approach and the kind of the tone of the wedding itself. I mean, if it allows for you to post a couple of light stands in the corners of the rooms and bounce in, then you can do that. But if the couple don't want you to have that sort of somewhat obtrusive approach, then you've got to respect that. And at the end of the day, you just have to find what best works for you.
So in practical terms, though, Seshu, what kind of lighting do you use? What kind of strobes do you use? How do you trigger those? How do you meter that stuff? How do you figure that out? I mean, can you walk us through some of the practical applications of the lighting that you use?
Well, the lighting, the setup that I use, especially for receptions, let's say, is to post one very robust light source, which is right now an Elinchrom pack, a monoblack that I use on a 13-foot light stand, and it's triggered, of course, with a pocket wizard. So anywhere around the reception floor, I can totally work with that light. I've been really trying to use at least two lights now, one on each side of the reception, and that's it's a bit challenging because once you've got your settings set for one, you're going to have to sort of compensate for the other. So that's been a bit challenging, but I'm working around trying to find a solution for that works for me. In a smaller venue, for instance, that may be just too much light, and at that point in time, I just put a couple of SB900, Nikon SB900 lights, again on the corners, sometimes bouncing it off of the ceiling, just to give it nice, even, beautiful lighting. And that's worked in the past for me as well.
And then a lot of your shots for the engagement portraits look to me like natural light. Are they actually natural light, or are you adding some fill light in those shots as well?
They are mostly natural light. I've rarely used like an off-camera flash, although it's something, again, that's on my agenda to use in the future. Most of the ones I think you've seen so far have been natural light. What I try and do is try and find light that reflects back into the client's space, so it's nice and soft rather than putting them in harsh lighting. So it's a very simple technique. This is something that anybody can really do, is to, if it's really sunny outside and the light's really contrasty, I just bring them right by the doorway, where the light just sort of softens and, it really makes it nice and beautiful. It's almost as if they're standing in front of a softbox, but, it's just light that's just reflected, so it's nice.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Seshu. We're out of time. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks a lot for having me, Mark.
All right, well, if you know of a photographer that you'd like to see on how they do that, please send your suggestions to me at askmark@adorama.com, or if you have questions about photography or photography-related gear, you can also send those to me at askmark@adorama.com. Thanks for joining us this week, and we'll see you next week.
This episode is brought to you by Adorama TV. Visit the Adorama Learning Center, where you'll find photography tips and techniques, links to the gear used in this episode, and related videos. For all the latest photography, video, and computer gear, visit adorama.com. And the next time you're in New York City, visit our store, located on 18th Street between 5th and 6th Avenue.